Welcome to our team call today. Have you ever noticed that there are some people who keep an attitude that's just fresh and their mind open for new ways of accomplishing their goals? Have you noticed that there are people who look for adventure and in what seems to be right at hand? Christian Sadler is one of these people. He's one who always sees the possibilities of there we go. Sees the possibilities of a situation and he keeps a fresh perspective on things and he has an exciting outlook. And this morning he's here with us to help us find a new center of gravity. Good morning, Christian. How are you?
I'm great, Ron. How are you?
Fantastic. Glad to hear from you this morning.
Well, I'm glad to be here and really grateful for you, Ron, for everything that you do for this team, everything that you do for these phone calls, and just really grateful for having this amazing team that we have and people like you that really make things run. You know, we couldn't do what we do if we didn't do it together. So thank you so much, Ron. Appreciate you. And folks, I've got a couple of things that I want to go over before I kind of get into this information. And it's mainly for those of you who are here in Utah and those of you who are coming to the Utah regionals. So just wanted to make sure I got this information out there because there's some big changes to this week's events specifically. And starting that off is actually at 9 a.m. we have a live that 50 minutes from now we'll begin. And we'll jump into class, and we're going to be learning about home inspections. So pretty stoked about that. I'm kind of balancing out my day where I can be here with you guys and then get there in a decent amount of time and be able to participate in the class as well. So that's cool. If you have guests that you would like to be there, if you guys want to try and still, get guests in, it might be a little late to get them into the morning session. But if you want to get them there for the afternoon session after lunch, then all you need to do is just send an email to johnwithelevate@gmail.com, and he'll make sure that they get on the list and they get registered for that. We also have another live taping tomorrow, and this is going to be Ron Williams, most valuable real estate. And I'll tell you what, Ron Williams has become a great friend of mine, but he's also fundamentally changed the way that I operate when it comes to food, when it comes to fitness. And, he has helped me change, some major habits within my life that continue to keep me young. So I think it's going to be an amazing class, and it's always a great opportunity to learn. I mean, Ron has so much knowledge about the human body that it's pretty amazing. So that's tomorrow. However, before we get to tomorrow, we've got tonight. Tonight, it's business as usual in a sense. We have our 4 Pillars event. We have our study groups. We have the onboarding class. We have, a follow-up going on. And all of that happens right over at the Salt Lake Community College campus. For those of you who are out of state, if you can just envision rent out an entire wing of a college every single week. Every single week, we rent out an entire wing of the college on a Thursday night. Plus, we, rent out multiple rooms throughout the week on other days as well. And, I'm pretty sure we're their biggest client at this point. And that's cool. And it's awesome. And it's because of this team. Now, here's the big difference. Here's the big change. Michael Huggins this week was in Utah on Monday, and he was recording his intro for the Helios. So Helios is going to have multiple different people doing different types of intros so that you can pick and choose what makes most sense for your prospects. And I got a chance to hang out with Michael and Vanessa, which is always a great opportunity. I mean, the mastermind that happens when we're together is nothing short of incredible. And part of the mastermind that came about was Michael Huggins and Vanessa town today. They're actually flying into Utah on their way to New York. And they're going to be here long enough that Michael is willing and going to do our 4 Pillars presentation. So if you guys have been paying attention to what Michael Huggins has been doing, he moved out to Denver to spark that marketplace to a new level of growth. And it's worked. I mean, they are growing. And so he's going to show us here in Utah the presentation that he's been doing and how that plays in. It's very, very similar to what we see on a Thursday night. It just has a Michael Huggins twist. So I think that that's a great opportunity. Make sure you prep your guests for that and you let them know. They're going to be learning from one of our, actually, the number one income earner in the company, at least from the referral side of the business, and a kid that went from riding his bike and working at Jiffy Lube to now making millions of dollars. So those are some of the big changes. Now, here's something that is for everyone, right? We have a regionals coming up here in Utah. It's only a couple of weeks away. And trust me, I am full swing regionals mode. I mean, it consumes a whole lot of my day. And we have been able to get Bob to do something special for us. See, we are blessed in Utah with the fact that we live where the home office is. And we also have on our leadership team many of the top income earners. So Utah is the only regionals where we're going to have all 4 of the top 4 income earners in one place training. Yes, you heard that right. The only regionals where you're going to have the number 1, the number 2, number 3, and number 4 income earner all in one place and training. So that's cool. However, what we're all is after regionals, and we have a date. It's not completely set yet, so I don't want to throw that out there, but in November, we're actually going to have a special mastermind with our CEO, with Bob Snyder himself. He has offered for our team, for those people who are proactive and get registered for regionals, and the date that we set is actually, so if by midnight this Saturday, Super Saturday, you are registered for regionals, then you can be included in this special mastermind with Bob Snyder. We're actually going to be at corporate doing this mastermind. And so I think this is a huge opportunity. I mean, anytime that you get to spend with Bob is great, but, or I should say, and in a setting like this, where it's going to be fairly free flowing and you'll be able to ask, the questions that you've had burning on your mind and get a real, solid understanding from Bob, how he's created the wealth he has and the direction of the company and all those things. Man, it's just, it's kind of like one of those once in a lifetime type of deals. And so I'm excited to be there. And for any of you, even if you don't live in Utah, if you get registered for the Utah regionals, if you're coming out here, now that does, you have to be registered for the training, make sure that you're registered for the training portion. And of course, you're going to want to be there for the banquet as well. But if you're registered and you come to the regionals, then you're going to get into this special mastermind with Bob Snyder. And we're going to be doing that, I believe, in November. So think about mid-November. That's the time frame that we're looking at. It's going to be on a Tuesday. So you guys can come in on a Tuesday, special mastermind with Bob Snyder. It's going to be a special experience. Okay. Just wanted to get those announcements out of the way because they're pending on my mind. It's a lot of what I've been, sorting through the last few days. And I just think there's so much value in what we're doing here in Utah right now, and so much opportunity that I hope that everybody hears it. I hope that you guys are spreading the word and taking advantage of what a unique position that we're in here in Utah. All right, now let me get to the training. Boom, let me flip over here to a whiteboard. All right, so some of you know that while I was in Mexico for the leadership retreat, I got the opportunity to kind of spark an old passion of mine, something that I used to do on a daily basis, which was skateboard. So I got the opportunity to go over to the skate park they have there. They have a Woodward skate park, which includes all kinds of cool stuff, a parkour course and professional, trainers of all different sorts and trampolines. And, it was just really cool. But I was specifically focused on, skateboarding. It's something that I've told myself I'd like to get back into. and I haven't made the effort to do it. And when I was younger, and I used to skateboard, I never really reached my full potential because I had all these mental hangups about what other people thought about me. And now, nowadays, if you know me, I'm not too concerned with what people think about me. I mean, that's their opportunity, but that's their choice, I should say. But I am who I am, and I'm just going to continue to be who I am, and I'm going to be a better version of who I am tomorrow than I am today because I'm always focused on. And so, with that new attitude, while I was in Mexico, I learned so many skills in such a short amount of time, getting back on the board, getting back on the skateboard. And so I was paying attention to something over the weekend. Well, I guess it wasn't even, yeah, it was the weekend, I guess. I was skateboarding. I've got a skate park about 4 doors away from my house. I mean, literally. Now, granted, I live in the country, so 4 doors is not the same as like in the city, right? It's a little bit further away, but it's just a quick, skateboard ride, or, not too long of a walk to get there. And let me just explain for those of you who don't understand skateboarding so much, there's a couple ways that you can skateboard. So pretend that looks like a skateboard. All right. This one, pretend that looks like a skateboard too. All right. So depending on which foot you have forward, so for example, left foot is forward like this, right? So these are the toes up here. And so that is going to be regular foot. If your left foot is forward, that's regular foot. If your right foot is forward, right, then that is what they call goofy foot, right? So there's regular foot and goofy foot. And I was this one right here, okay, all growing up. And they have different ways you can test this. This also comes down to snowboarding and and all kinds of different things. And so depending on which foot is forward is whether they call you regular foot or goofy foot. And it doesn't actually mean you're goofy, right? It just depends on where you feel most comfortable and where you're going to put your center of gravity and how you're going to steer and all those things. Okay. Now, granted, I know you guys are like, where in the world is he going with this? Building my business. It's okay. Stick with me. You're going to get it. All right. Just stick with me here. All right. So let's get rid of this one over here. This is how I always skateboarded, right? Now, here was the difference. I used to push with my front foot. And so I never knew, I didn't really know that that was called anything. I just knew that that's what had felt comfortable when I was younger. And because it's what felt natural to me, I always did it. And I never took the time to learn to be more effective. So think about this for a second. You've got the board, right? You got the board here. And in order to push, I've got my back foot. I have to have it kind of on the center of the board while I'm pushing with my other foot over here, right? Kicking my leg, right? And then this leg's coming up. So, and somebody came off of mute. Let me go ahead, just real quick, get them out. All right. So what would happen is I would have to push over here, and then I would have to shift this foot back over in this direction, and I would have to pull my center of gravity all the way up here to put my foot back over here in this manner, right? Because when you're going down the road, you're not exactly having your foot going forward. But when you're pushing, you do have your foot going forward. So you guys can imagine this was not the most effective way of skateboarding, right? But I didn't know any better. And I didn't really ask, for help on a lot of things, back then. And quite frankly, I just did what I needed to do to get around, and I would practice usually when I was alone, because when I was around other people, I kind of tried to stick with what I felt like I could probably do, because at that point, look so silly, right? I mean, looking backwards, I looked a lot more silly, not excelling and not getting to my full potential, and surrounding myself with people who were doing such amazing things, and me stunting my own growth because I was unwilling to really look at it effectively. All right. So while I was in Mexico, I learned that what this way of pushing is called it's called pushing Mongol. And they said, hey, there's a couple of professional skateboarders that actually do this. They actually skate this way, but it's very, very few because, as you can imagine, it's very ineffective. If I have to shift my entire weight, if I have to shift, my foot from one direction to another direction and shift my entire weight over in order to go from one trick to the next trick, or in order to go from skateboarding to kickflip or whatever it was, it's a lot less effective. And so what they taught me was, the way that typically you want to do it is this foot here, okay, looking at the original, this foot stays on the board, kind of the way it is now, and this foot over here is the one that is pushing. Now, as you can imagine, if you're doing that, you're not pushing over here on this side, but in fact, you're pushing over here on this side, right? I know you guys are still trying to figure out where I'm at. You're trying to figure out where I'm going with business. Here's the thing. For years, I skateboarded with my gravity over here on the left side of the board. So what feels natural to me right now, every time I get on a skateboard, is to have my center of gravity there. And in fact, when I shift and when I want to skateboard the proper way, my leg's got to be here, and the other leg is going to come up here and kick, and then it's going to simply shift back. And over here, my center of gravity is about right here. And here, my center of gravity is more about right here, where it should be. So I'm learning this new skill. So I'm skateboarding around my neighborhood. I'm going to the skate park. I'm learning this new skill, and it just really brought to light how we have to shift in our own life when it comes to Renatus, when it comes to becoming an entrepreneur. You see, my whole adult life, I had learned to work a job. I had learned to get up out of bed when somebody else told me to get out of bed, and to go to sleep in a matter of time that would allow me to do that, and to listen to what they said and to do the things that they said to do, and to take the money that I had and a third of it to the government and not even see it, and then take another portion of my income and put it into a retirement plan to save for the future. And you guys can draw out the rest of the story on and on and on and on about these ways of inefficiently living as a W-2 employee, of not having a real firm balance where you can pivot when things shift, right? As you're skateboarding, you've got different angles within the cement as you're going along. You've got curbs that you got to be able to ollie over. You got all this stuff, and in life, it's the exact same way. And right now, when I'm skateboarding down the road, just regular skateboarding, I never had this before that I remember, anyways. We're down the road, and I get completely off balance, and I end up like bailing off the board. And, I did a video on my Facebook Live where I said, I'm getting used to the fact that it's okay to suck for a while. I'm okay sucking at skateboarding for now because I'm learning a new skill. And if I don't suck at it, then I'm not going to learn and I'm not going to gain this new skill. Well, it's the same thing for you as becoming an entrepreneur. You're used to having your center of gravity, right, over here off of the efficient way of living your life. And now you're moving your center of gravity over here in a better way of running your life and becoming more free. And here's the thing. If you get off balance because you're used to living a certain way, beating yourself up about it and not getting back on the skateboard, which is probably what I would have done in my younger age because I just had a low self-esteem about what other people thought, then you'll never get better. You'll never gain a new skill. Whereas nowadays, I just have fun with it, right? I just laugh about it. It's a game anyways, right? It's a hobby. And life is kind of the same way. If you take life too seriously, folks, and you don't try because you're not good at it yet, you're not good at this new skill of becoming an entrepreneur, you're not good at this new skill of making phone calls, you're not good at this new skill of finding properties, you're not good at this new skill of finding the funding for your deals, you're never going to get good. So mess it up, right? Have the conversations. I could spend all day long asking somebody else how to skateboard. And actually, as I was in Cancun, I started asking this guy, like, what kind of can you give me? Here's how I used to skate, and I'm realizing that this is the way that I'm supposed to skate. So what kind of tips can you give me about, becoming better? He said, well, the first thing is go skate the way that you're supposed to skate for a while. Like, just go practice the skill and then come back to me when you're comfortable skating around the regular way, when you're pushing with your back foot. And that's going to be the same thing when you go to your mentors in this business. If you come to them and say, well, what do I say when this comes up on a phone call? What do I say when that comes up on a phone call? What do I need to do in order to do this and do that? They're going to say, well, first of all, go take the first step that I told you to take, and take that step as many times as you need to take it until you get results. And if you're not getting any results, I can give you some ideas on a better way to take that first step. But until you get some results from that first step, there's no point in me going to step 2 and step 3 and step 4 and step 5. This a lot where people are coming to me and they're asking questions about step 14 and they still haven't finished step 1. They haven't gotten results from step 2, right? If you want that type of training, that's what the education is for. That's what all your online training is for. If you guys want the skills, though, you got to get on the skateboard, right? You just got to get out there and make the phone calls. You got to get out there and start marketing and talking to homeowners. You got to do that first step. And when you master that first step, when you've got results, bring that to me. Bring that to your mentor or your affiliate, I should say. Bring that to somebody else who's more advanced in the business and get guidance on the next step. But don't go to them and try and get guidance on steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Say, here's what I've done on step 1. What's step 2? And when you've got results from step 2, hey, can you guide me a little bit in step 3? And if you'll find step by step, you're going to master this skill. And pretty soon, doing real estate deals are going to be second nature. Enrolling combos, it's going to be second nature. So that was the message that I had for you today. That's kind of the insight from my life. I often do this where I relate it to business. Everything just kind of relates to business to me and turns into these trainings. And so I want you to understand, you're gaining a new center of gravity. It's okay if you fall down. It's okay if you scrape your shins. It's okay if you bang up your knee, even if you bump your head. Get back on the skateboard, right? Get back into your business and take that next step. Thanks for joining me, folks. We do have a couple of chats here. Yuilani, I will not be able to call you right after this because I have a PIT team webinar right after this. Feel free to send me a text message. Thanks for joining us, folks.